Jeremy Corbyn, as usual, has exposed the hypocrisy latent and constantly explicit within our media and politicians. This is something already new when the media and politicians jumped upon the tragedy of the attempted murder of these Jewish gentlemen in Golders Green. Now, it did so by taking advantage of this singular incident, or rather, this incident whereby it was conducted by a single suspect, and turned it into a political kind of opportunity. And this is where our politicians in our media elites, they like to jump on these circumstances in order to paint a certain picture. Only that it's painting a picture that is so simplistic, so obvious. It's basically paint by numbers when it comes to painting the picture. It is so simple. It is so stupid. It is so obvious. Now, we knew this, that the media and politicians, they wanted to suppress and restrict the pro-Palestinian protests. They want to restrict pro-Palestinian any kind of legal action by pro-Palestinian defenders, but also any kind of move towards pro-Palestinian recognition of Palestinians as human beings. This is something that our media and politicians, by mere virtue of the fact that power is connected to capital, and of course in the power balance between the pro-Israel group and the pro-Palestinian group. Obviously, the pro-Israel group has more money, more power, more wealth. It's all in tune with the establishment as well, with the foreign policy of the establishment. Obviously, Israel being an important ally in geopolitically to the Western powers. Obviously, this is becoming clear that Israel is becoming more of a liability. It's not really providing a kind of a positive benefit. It's alienating the very other potential allies that could, that the West could have in that region. Take, for example, UAE. Even though UAE, Saudi Arabia, they want to normalize relations, despite the horrific violence that conducted, and really the carpet bombing of Palestinians. Basically, they don't mind that as long as they maintain their stability, economic and power, power-wise in the region. But anyways, I digress. We know that the media and politicians care about punching down on the pro-Palestinian movement. So when the opportunity rose of a mentally ill person, obviously somebody we should 100% condemn. This is not a person who you expect to see in pro-Palestinian protests. This is a person with low impulse control. This is a person with obvious, just a complete outlier, and a complete, one in a hundreds of thousands kind of type of personality. This is not the sort of person you would see at a pro-Palestinian march, because if he was, and he did, people like him were committing violence, it would be on the front page news already. But year after year after year, when you have these pro-Palestinian marches going on with hundreds of thousands of people attending, the media, the politicians can't find the caricature of this violent terrorist who would give a bad name to Palestinians, or otherwise they would use it. Only that they found this person, and they are conflating him with this anti-Semitic and terroristic kind of tones, and kind of putting the blame, laying the blame at the feet of pro-Palestinian movement. Only that he himself, partly because, of course, they're saying this anti-Semitism kind of rise is due to the pro-Palestinian movement. Only that he himself, this person who was implicated in the crimes, also attempted to murder another person, person who was not of the two Jewish gentlemen. He also tried to kill another person who was Muslim, which kind of puts a spanner in the works of this narrative that is put forward by the mainstream news and politicians. that this was some anti-Semitic attack due to some pro-Palestinian sentiment. It kind of like, it's a form of opportunism, disingenuousness, duplicity, lies that is so clear cut when you look at the facts. Only that they want to smear and kind of put fog to the situation, kind of make sure that the situation is kind of completely made opaque, so that they can move on and to present a kind of a new Overton window in which there is a rise of anti-Semitism due to these protests, although they've not found that connection yet. They've only merely alluded to it and made a kind of this kind of argument of correlation, or an argument of the protests are a result of Jew hatred, but they've not actually have any evidence to suggest that people. And let's not forget that this is the more importantly, this argument that the pro-Palestinian movement is kind of victimizing the Jewish community. That should not be the central point of the argument. It's the reason why why people protesting should be the principal reason why we should be looking at these protests with kind of a clear eye. Why are these protests happening in the first place? Well, a genocide has been occurring and has been inflicted on Palestinian people. Why have we not centralized that as the kind of the phenomenon that is undergoing right now, rather than a response that may have occurred as a result of the violence inflicted on Palestinians? And furthermore, it's almost as if a protest against a genocide is not acceptable if it puts a certain community or a certain the personal feelings of the people associated with the people, associated with the nation. If it puts it into if it creates some sort of irritation, or some sort of creates negative kind of feelings, or negative it kind of creates this sense of a negative atmosphere, rather than actually causing the negativity in the first place. The tangibility of actually harming Jews is not there. They're merely simply implying it. They're merely simply making a claim to which there is no evidence. And if there was evidence, obviously there would be police knocking on doors of these protesters. Only that this is not true. They're more sensitive to the fact that they are protesting against a state that they may themselves be associated with, or a state that they believe in or support, rather than the violence that the state is inflicting on the Palestinians in the first place, which is a form of moral tragedy here. World War II, we saw Third Reich, we saw the incredible violence committed on a Jewish population, by mere virtue of the fact that they weren't the chosen Aryan, the super race of Aryans. Only that this kind of like this sense of us versus them has now been turned towards Palestinians from the so-called former victims. Only that this is not the reality. The people in power in Israel are not the ones who are victims in World War II, because of course the vast majority of Holocaust survivors are in their 80s, 90s. They don't have political power per se. It's only people of the right-wing persuasion, the temperament, the right-wing fascistic mindset, who have appropriated the victimization of the Holocaust and used it to their own benefit, used it as a moral shield in order for them to enact their own psychopathic, fantasy kind of like politics of trying to kill as many of their enemies as possible, and who are their enemies? People who are simply wanting to be, not wanting to have their land taken away from them, not wanting to, be bombed mercilessly, not wanting to, be treated as not just second, not third, but less than animals. And the media and politicians go hook, line, and centre. So Jeremy Corbyn has exposed the racist hypocrisy of our media in saying that this kind of anti-Semitism epidemic, the rising of the terrorist level, this is all a form of narrativization, a form of painting a picture that puts the blame on the pro-Palestine movement rather than actually looking at the actual people causing the crimes. Nothing to do with Palestine. Even if there are, 1% of pro-Palestinian marchers who are committing violence against, Jews. First of all, we don't condone these people. We absolutely condemn these people because it's not in the line of the actual reasons for the march is happening. The reason why people are marching is because for humanitarian reasons, that the Palestinians are not treated as equal human beings. They're not treated as human beings in the first place, which is the exact reason for why you would attack the Jewish community, physically attack random people of the Jewish community, because the people who, who are committing genocide, are on the same page as the people who are attacking the Jewish community, and that's clear cut to anyone with any moral principles. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. That'd be very much appreciated. Thank you.